Why do I want to rid the stigma attached around mental health? Well, firstly, because there are people out there struggling and too afraid to say something. And I'm not just talking about the usual depression, PTSD, bipolar, anxiety. I'm also talking about drug addiction, drink addiction, as these could be possible coping mechanisms to a mental health issue or trauma that's happened to someone. But let's clarify a few things. I don't want you to confuse depression with having a bad day. I also don't want you to think anxiety is worrying about what clothes to wear after finding a stain on your favourite top. I don't want you to confuse PTSD with some old bloke sat in the pub telling war stories. And I don't want you to think having a few drinks at the weekend is a coping mechanism for a bad event you've suffered. Mental health is the relentless thought and feeling which doesn't go away in a day, week or month. It's the thing that's right at the front of your mind and all you can think about. It's a thing you have to make a conscious effort to mask on a day-to-day basis. That's the time when maybe drink and drugs may step in to take you out of the painful reality you're stuck in. There isn't a face attached to mental health. It's not just a familiar person in the office who's been off work with stress. It's not just a friend or family member you worry about. It could be the homeless drunk you see on the street whilst you're walking through town to go and get a coffee or after a night out. Just a quick question. Have you ever looked past the fact they're a homeless drunk? Or like 95% of the people I've seen, you've probably given them a wide berth out of fear or disgust. Now, I'm not saying all homeless people suffer with bad mental health, although the statistics are scarily high, but have you ever wondered what they could have experienced and gone through for them to end up like that? I'm sure you'd agree it can't be pleasant living under a shop door or in a subway. So, do you not see a person that may have had to leave home because they were being abused? Do you not see a person that has suffered such a horrendous life experience? Drink and drugs are maybe the only way they can escape the reality. Do you not see a person that has had everything taken away from them, perhaps through no fault of their own? Do you not see a person that may have horrific images going through their head which they've never told anyone about? Or, like the 95%, you don't even look that deep and you see a homeless drunk that should have done better and you're just lucky you're not them? So, I'm here to address and lift the stigma around the real mental health problems which we're all surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. You may not have even noticed, but in some cases, these can be a lot closer to home than you may think. The stigma is stopping people speaking up. It's stopping them addressing their problems, and it's stopping them getting help. So, it's something that needs to be acknowledged and get the light shone on it. Maybe you've suffered or currently suffering yourself right now with repetitive negative thoughts that are deeply affecting you, which you've not spoken to anyone about through fear and the negative stigma attached to mental health. Perhaps you've locked them up in the hope it'll go away and they'll disappear one day. So like I said, I want to break the stigma around talking about mental health. I cannot believe what a bad rep it has. The brain is one of the most sensitive, intricate parts of the body. It's your computer that carries out every function you do, yet to have a problem with it is deemed weak. Now, picture yourself for a moment. If you had a badly broken arm, you would probably tell someone, then see your doctor or go to accident and emergency, get an x-ray, then depending on the extent of your injury, it'd get put in a cast or a sling. A few months later, you'll go back for a checkup and hey presto, it'll be fixed. However, when people are suffering from a mental health problem, because of the stigma attached around it, the vast majority do not speak to anyone. They do not go and see anyone. They do not get it treated. It doesn't get fixed. Instead, they try and struggle through it by themselves. Now, imagine struggling through a badly broken arm, not telling anyone, not getting it looked at, not getting an X-ray or a diagnosis, and waiting for the pain to go and it finally healing itself. You'd agree that'd be a pretty brutal way of dealing with it, and the chances are it won't heal right. Is that correct? It'd also be pretty noticeable to others that you're actually not okay and you are struggling. So why on earth, when it comes to a mental health problem that can be permanently damaging, incredibly upsetting, and affect your life on a constant day-to-day basis, is it deemed inappropriate not to mention something because of how you will look and how you will be portrayed? Let me give you another example of how I've witnessed mental health and how somebody didn't speak up because of the stigma attached around it. You'll probably be able to think of loads of your own examples pretty similar to this. I used to meet a few close mates of mine about once a week in a pub, and I knew for a fact one person in particular was struggling with his mental health. Through fear and thought of looking weak, they sat there week after week trying to pretend they were okay. They smiled now and again, they gave the odd they tried joining in conversation when they could. They even forced a bit of banter at times. But they weren't completely there. They weren't okay. Their mind was totally preoccupied with whatever thought and emotion they had running through it. And when I say thought and emotion, I don't mean the thought of what shall I have for tea, or I really need to clean the house when I get back in. I mean a bad, damaging thought from a traumatic event which had been impacting on him for a while. At the same time, across the other side of the table was another one of our mates telling us all about his football injury. How his ankle had swollen and he'll be out for months due to ligament damage. Also how he was so annoyed about it and how he'll miss the rest of the season. Now this is a funny thing. This is when I scream in my head. We will happily tell people our problems about all other areas of our body, even laugh and joke about the personal bits too. But to talk about the problem in your head is a no-go area. It's the unmentionable. It's the elephant in the room. It's the thing which will make you look vulnerable. It's the thing you think will outcast you. So, a quick test for you. Can you picture a time when you've moaned and groaned about any of the following? Aches and pains after some sport or gym session. Perhaps pulling a muscle. Complaining about your bad back or your dodgy knees. A sprained wrist or ankle because you've fallen over. Maybe a chest infection or some other bug that's going around. Perhaps a health problem that's run in the family for years. If you've ever mentioned and complained about them, I'm guessing it was fairly easy to talk about, yeah? Now, imagine that time you may have suffered some form of mental health issue, a trauma in your life, something which seriously affected you for a period of time. Was it that easy to talk about? Did you even talk about it? You see, it affects people of all ages, races and genders. Whether you're talented, rich or famous, it doesn't matter. For instance, Angelina Jolie, Winston Churchill, Vincent van Gogh, Halle Berry, Robin Williams, Michael Phelps, Jim Carrey. I could go on. Hopefully, I've listed a few talented, rich, famous people there, but that's obviously down to your opinion of talent. One person I nearly forgot to mention is Prince Harry, who's recently spoken up about his battle with his mental health. So I hope you can see it is an issue out there that needs to be addressed, but it keeps getting brushed under the carpet. People are now only realizing you cannot be healthy until you're mentally healthy. Yes, you can be fit. Yes, you can be wealthy. Yes, you can even be successful. But if the two aren't aligned, you're not healthy, because there is no health without mental health. Here in the UK, there's a huge gap in services for people who are starting to struggle with their mental health. People may go to the GP, who'll give them antidepressants, or perhaps nothing. There's no real support before they're in crisis. Social workers do a great job, but they're weighed down with caseloads of work, and people in need are constantly being overlooked. If only we could break the stigma attached to mental health and talk about things before they got to the stage where they develop into something uncontrollable, it would be so beneficial. Because the longer these issues are bottled up, the stronger they become, and the more risk of them damaging you. Let's get rid of the embarrassment. Let's get rid of the weakness. Let's get rid of the vulnerability attached to it, so we can prevent it rather than cure it. So now you know, mental health doesn't have a face. It doesn't have a neon sign saying, "Here I am, I'm struggling." It doesn't pick its moment to come for you. Some people may appear absolutely fine on the outside while suffering beyond belief on the inside. So, I'm here fighting for the people that are scared to stand up and say, yeah, I'm one of those people struggling. I'm fighting for the people that still feel the weight and shame of admitting to a mental health issue. I'm fighting for the people that feel they have nowhere to turn and nobody to speak to through fear of being ridiculed and laughed at. I'm fighting for the people that have had to live their life as an act because they can't be their true self. I'm fighting for the people that have suffered loss and trauma in their life which hasn't been dealt with because they don't know who to speak to. I'm fighting for the people that feel like they're choking because they can't tell you what's wrong. Ultimately, I'm fighting to give people the breathing space to say, you know what, I'm not okay. So please, on behalf of every person that deserves to be at their very best, but are struggling right now and afraid to speak up, can we remove the stigma and let them breathe? Allow them to say, I'm not okay, without judging. In a time where technology can fix a satellite in space, can we not allow someone the chance to fix their own mind? And let's remember, sometimes it's okay not to be okay.